All righty. Happy Saturday once again, because I did a little thingy dingy at the beginning. I am going to mute myself here on UberTuber. And we got that, and that's fine. All right. Click a doodle do. If I come up with any references to websites, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm going to try and put them in the description below. I was going to try and start putting them in the chat, but life is what it is. Again, happy Saturday. Yeah, life's been really kind of interesting. If you've heard any predictions, if you will, any foretelling about technology problems, you got it. Typically, the router should last probably 2 to 3 years. Well, I had to replace mine, and I think we did it last year. I can't remember, but it was sooner than it needed to be done. Usually my son does it. He's now moved out. So after my first week at a brand new job that is farther from my house, taking a completely different route, and through very rural areas. Yeah, and in the dark, I have to drive in the dark, but I do get home 15 minutes earlier than I did before, but I have to leave about a half an hour sooner. So it all kind of, comes out in the wash, so to speak. But with all that change this week and moving up back into management, and I mean, it's a completely different mindset because your head's still wrapped around all these details. They're not trivialities, but they're the details of what you were doing before, which I do carry a lot of the skills with me. But anyway, bore. So I hope everyone is well. I'm going to just right up front talk about what I'm going to be doing the next couple of weeks. This upcoming Saturday, the 19th, I don't have the thing to share. But again, I'll put the link in the description below. Eaton Rapids, Michigan. It is Stimson. It's a B&B, but previously it was like a hospital for about 40 years, and they say that there's a lot of interesting anomalies that go on in there. Most people would call them paranormal. I don't know, that word kind of bothers me a little bit, but lovely Mama Mary posted that on one of her Facebook links, or what do you call it, feeds. I picked up on it and jumped in as a vendor. So I'll have my pyramids, none of the ones, these are all my babies. But I've got several. That's why I've been kind of talking about the crystals and whatnot. And then I'll do an expanded, maybe another 10 minutes that after I close out of YouTube, because I've got some things I would like to be able to say that's a little, I want to be able to say what I want to say and not have to worry about stuff. So anyway, one of the things that I'm afforded now that I'm driving farther is, of course, more time to process things, which, that's why I have to use GPS. Even though I know my way, I still have to use GPS as a reminder. It's like, hey, you got to turn here, especially when it's driving in the dark. And you do have to kind of pay attention because it's so rural. There are a lot of critters, small and big. Can't tell you how many times I had to dodge a squirrel. Haven't had to dodge anything bigger than that, which I'm eternally grateful for. I don't need to be making deer. Probably deer season now, might be bow. Still, they're a little more active, and I see a lot of them who didn't quite make it across the road between here and my new job. So one of the people that I was very close to was my dad. And my dad had a tendency to use self-deprecating terms. So one of the things he would, and I know he meant it with humor, he would say, hey, he'd call on the phone and say, hey, it's your crappy pappy. And I kind of got irritated with that. I said, you're not, you're my pappy, but you ain't crappy. So keeping that in mind, some of the other terms that he would use, one of them was dumbhead. Totally not acceptable, right? So there's other words that he would not have, he probably used them, he just didn't use them in front of me, let's face it. All right. So thinking about the strata of intellect and accepting things in different areas of life, right? So we're going to talk about how maybe someone is very good at cooking and somebody else who's very good at woodworking. So we all have our talents. And you could look at that person and say they're really smart, or you could say they're not so smart. So those would be those people that my dad would consider to be a dumbhead, that would not be smart, would not use critical thinking skills, which I think is seriously lacking in our society today. Critical thinking skills. If you have the ability, even if you don't, if you don't have critical thinking skills and you got kids, dude, learn with your kids, right? Just saying. That critical thinking skills are going to be really super important. You got to be able to think outside the box and make connections outside of what you've been programmed with. And in order to be programmed with other things, that's not going to collide. You might have to deprogram, if that's a word, and reintroduce. I look like I'm sideways. My camera's over here. Sorry. I had to anyway, yeah. I had to move furniture because I had to get at the router because I had to replace it, right? No internet for a week. I had my, what do you call it? My phone could pick things up, but there was nothing here at home. I don't watch TV, so it's not like a big deal. And I got to talk about that for the noise that I wanted to. I just turned the TV on and I turned it on and I click, click, click. Okay, I'll see you in a minute, dog. And I came back after my errands this morning and I looked at it, it's like the Mysteries of Bradshaw Ranch, Aliens, Portholes, and the Paranormal. And it's like, oh. And I watched it for a couple minutes, like, hey, this is really interesting. I got to start this from the beginning. It's almost over now. I don't know if there's more than one episode of this, but it looked like it was pretty interesting. They had all kinds of plasma detectors and energy detectors, magnetic, magnoelectric. However, I know they're different. Anyway, back to the dumbheads and the opposite. Well, so there's two factions that I want to talk about today, and that is the dumbheads, right? You could be a doctor and be a dumbhead. You can have a PhD in just about anything under the sun. You're still going to be a dumbhead if you don't have those critical thinking skills, right? And then there's the dickheads. And the dickheads, that's got nothing to do with whether most of them are not going to be dumbheads. They're going to be very slick, sly, and conniving. They're going to know how to get what they want. So, all right. So I'm going to try and read this because I want to get through it because it's already 9 minutes in and I want to make these shorter. All right. I'm going to try and read it right up. Some reason I came up with those of us who are weak and weakening are basically caught between. So now I'm talking about this third group. The dumbheads who don't want to do anything, don't want to knowledge, whether they're programmed or in the middle of dealing with this, what do you call it? The form of psychosis, mass formation psychosis. And the dickheads, who are usually the ones who create those psychoses through the media. I saw a really interesting thing about blue light too. Maybe that's why the squirrel was in front of me, because I have a tendency to kind of go. Pew. All right. So basically, those of us who are trying to make sense of all the madness going on and are a little more open to different ideas, and we're not afraid to challenge our own paradigms, regardless of what it is. And I can't stress that enough, whatever strata it is, whatever programmed belief system it is, whether it's your belief in nutrition, medicine, religion, spirituality, I don't care what it is. So this is if we're caught, there are those of us who are caught between the dickheads and the dumbheads. It's a level where in us, the dumbheads, there's a lack of desire for expansion. And as compared to this lack of expansion, to those who are expanded or expanding as far as selfishness and oligarchy control of the masses. So these guys, the oligarch, they don't, Ali, we'll call him Ali. Ali doesn't like us, right? They love the dumbheads because they're easily manipulated, they're easily controlled, they're easily used as their minions. They'll anything that's going to make them feel better, safer is what they want to hear and what they're going to align with. But there are those of us who see that there is a way out and wonder. So this is what I was wondering. Are there enough of us who see that there is a way out, who can collectively coordinate a different type of process of freedom? And it has to be something that's never been seen or done before, ever. It's not going to be laying down and doing nothing. It's going to be very active in a very different way. It's not something that's been seen, not just for years, decades, millennia. It's got to be like into the eons that this has not been done, if it has ever been done, to break this cycle. And it's a mega cycle. And don't tell me you can't break or reform a cycle. Don't. An unhealthy cycle. An unhealthy cycle would mean something where we can't have that level of freedom of expansion, which is what we're under right now. They're trying to squish us. So, pardon me. Next question would be, how do we make it happen to be able to free ourselves and give the option? So this was my thing. It has to be a choice. It has to be an option. And if we find that way out, whatever, and I think that this is part of the problem, is that because we're coming from different places, those of us who are open, we might have these trivialities that could hinder us to coming together. We might find that this person has a different belief system, and we find that in our own programming to be a little on the prickly side, and we don't want to deal with it. Get over it. So in order to make that happen, to free ourselves and give us the option to those who are, they have to have it as an option. We need to give it to those who are the dumbheads, right? They need to be able to make the decision in a way that they understand the impact of their decision. Sorry, there might be some road noise. Because it's not just going to be to the demise of them, it's going to affect all of us. Because if they don't make that realization, it's going to be to our poor ends. It's not going to be favorable to us. But if there are enough of people that are awake and do it in the right way, and you aren't finding it a problem to be next to somebody who doesn't 100% align with your belief system, man, the bed of nails just popped into my head. You got to be able to tolerate that bed of nails, that burr under the saddle, because it's going to travel you to the next place. You might be a little sore, but you're going to get to the next place. Because ultimately, if it's successful in getting it to those who are, I can't say that they're not awake, because they're definitely aware of things, but they've so blocked it. Like I've had people tell me they don't want to know. They know it's there, but I'm turning a blind eye to it, putting my blinders on. We want them to lose the fear of something different. Because ultimately, if we get enough of them awake, aware, and active, it is going to be to the demise of the dickens. And I think that this is kind of funny because that came after this other part where there is a middle ground, and it's hard to explain and how we perceive our own little realms and include part of the equation as the really what we want to be able to integrate either into society, or someone might call it in remaining in the fringe, because there can be a level of being closed when you're on the fringe. You want to not be accepted. No, I'm sorry. No, you like being in the fringe because you want to be different. That's your ego. You gotta let go of that. We have a choice of either to pursue a passion or look for something that's more integrated into social norms. And I guess we kind of need to make the fringe part of the pattern. Not part of the comforter, but part of the pattern of what we are. Anyway, man, that was really kind of, that was heavy. Woo. So anyway, yep, I'm going to be at Stimson Hospital in Eaton Rapids on the 19th of October, 2024. And on the, what is the date? It's the following week, the 26th and 27th. I'm just going to go hang out in Mount Pleasant. There's like that paranormal conference. And because Mary's going to be there and I want to see her in action again. Anyway, please do check out the website if you need any help with dumping some of the dookie you got floating in your life. Let's have a chat. Send me an email. All the contact details are below. Yeah, you can get a psychological enema. All right. So I am going to end the live stream here on YouTube. And if you would like to see the intuitive portion for what's going to be relevant in your life, you can go ahead on Rumble and on hopefully BitChute. It doesn't go up quick, you guys, because dang Skippy, it better start though, because I was without internet. Anyway, blessings to everyone. And